haven't changed, Harper. You just never saw who I really was.
My name is Ethan Glass, and I used to think I had the perfect marriage. That was before I discovered my wife Harper's secret Instagram live show, where she'd mock everything about me to 12,000 strangers while her boy toy flexed in the background. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, when I still believed in happily ever after and thought the biggest problem in my life was Harper's obsession with getting more followers. It was a Tuesday morning in our luxury downtown apartment when I first noticed something was seriously wrong. I'd been working as a tech consultant for 8 years, making decent money, enough to afford our place in the Meridian Tower, one of those glass and steel monuments to urban success that screamed, "We've made it," to anyone driving by. Harper was sitting at our kitchen island, phone in hand as always. But this time she wasn't just scrolling. She was whispering into it, and when she saw me approaching with my coffee, she quickly ended whatever call she was on. "Morning, babe," I said, leaning in for our usual quick kiss. She turned her cheek to me instead of her lips. "Morning, I'm running late for my content meeting with the girls." Harper grabbed her designer purse, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year, and headed for the door. "Don't wait up tonight. We're doing a late collaboration shoot." That was the third late collaboration shoot this week. Harper had been building her influencer brand for 2 years now, focusing on lifestyle and relationship content. Her bio read, "Living my best life with my amazing husband," with a heart emoji. But lately I felt more like a prop in her content than an actual partner. I spent that morning troubleshooting network security for a client downtown, but my mind kept wandering back to Harper's behavior. The whispered phone calls, the late nights, the way she'd been treating me more like a roommate than a husband. When I got home around 6, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I checked her iPad, which she'd left charging on the kitchen counter. The device wasn't locked, and her Instagram DMs were still open. What I found made my blood run cold. Chase_fitlife_29. Can't wait for tonight, babe. Ethan still clueless. Harper_living_best. Completely. He actually thinks I'm at content meetings, LOL. Poor guy has no idea his wife prefers a real man. Chase_fitlife_29. Show me again how you roast him on your secret lives. That crap is comedy gold. Harper_living_best. Tonight at 9, I'll do the whole "my husband can't even fix a leaky faucet" routine. My followers eat that stuff up. I sat there staring at the screen, reading message after message. Harper had been running a second Instagram account, one I didn't know about, where she'd go live and mock me to strangers. She'd tell stories about my failures as a husband, joke about our private moments, and apparently had been carrying on with some gym trainer named Chase for months. The apartment felt like it was spinning around me. 3 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to? I was entertainment for her followers and a paycheck for her lifestyle, while she screwed around with some musclehead behind my back. I heard her key in the lock around 8:30. She walked in carrying shopping bags, humming to herself, looking happier than she'd been around me in months. "Hey," she said, barely glancing at me. "How was your day?" "Interesting," I replied, watching her face carefully. "Learned some new things about network security. Amazing what people think they can hide online these days." Harper paused for just a second, but then continued unpacking her bags. "That's nice, honey. I'm going to get ready for tonight's shoot." She disappeared into our bedroom, and I heard the shower start running. I looked at the iPad again and saw new messages coming in. Chase_fitlife_29. "Ready for the show, babe. Gonna be epic watching you destroy that loser. Harper_living_best. Already in the shower. Give me 30 mins, then it's showtime. Tonight I'm telling them about how he cried during Titanic Lamau." That was it. The crying during Titanic thing had happened during our second date, when I was trying to be vulnerable and show her my emotional side. She'd held me and said it was sweet. Now it was material for her comedy routine. I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting her directly, I was going to watch this show myself. I wanted to see exactly how deep this betrayal went before I decided what to do about it. At 9 o'clock sharp, I was on my laptop in the living room while Harper was getting ready for bed in the bedroom. I found her secret account at Harper_tells_all. She had over 12,000 followers, and the bio read, "Spilling tea about married life." "My husband has no idea." The live started, and there was my wife, sitting on our bed, smiling at the camera like she was greeting old friends. "Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Harper Tells All. Tonight I've got some fresh stories about my clueless husband for you." The comments started flowing immediately. "Yes's girl, we live for these stories. Your husband sounds like such a loser, Loa. When are you leaving him? Harper laughed, clearly enjoying the attention. So, get this. Today he tried to act all mysterious and talk about network security like he's some kind of tech genius. Babe, you fix people's Wi-Fi problems. You're not the FBI. More comments, more laughing emojis. I watched my wife of 3 years systematically destroy my character for the entertainment of strangers. And don't even get me started on his romantic skills, she continued. Let's just say there's a reason I've been getting my needs met elsewhere, if you know what I mean. That's when Chase appeared in the frame, shirtless and grinning. The comments exploded. Chase, we love Chase. Dump the husband, keep the trainer, goals AF. Chase leaned down and kissed Harper on camera. Tell them about the Titanic thing, babe. That story kills me every time. As I watched my wife tell 12,000 strangers about one of our most intimate moments, turning it into a punchline about what a sensitive loser I was, something inside me snapped. But it wasn't rage, it was clarity. Cold, calculating clarity. Harper wanted to play games? She wanted to humiliate me for content? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. I might fix Wi-Fi problems for a living, but I knew a lot more about technology and networks than she realized. And I was about to give her followers a show they'd never forget. The live stream ended with Harper and Chase making out while the comments cheered them on. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark living room, planning my next move. Harper came out 20 minutes later, hair messed up, looking satisfied. I'm exhausted, honey, going straight to sleep. Sweet dreams, I said softly. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. I spent the next morning doing research. Chase Dalton, 29, personal trainer at Elite Fitness downtown, aspiring influencer with his own delusions of social media grandeur. His Instagram was full of shirtless gym selfies and motivational quotes that he'd clearly stolen from more successful people. He had maybe 3,000 followers, which explained why he was so impressed with Harper's 12,000. More importantly, I did some digging into our apartment situation. Harper had been living here for 2 years before we got married, but she'd never been on the lease. When we tied the knot, I'd offered to add her name to everything, but she'd said she was too busy with content creation to deal with paperwork. That decision was about to bite her in the A. I also reached out to Rob Martinez, the head of security for our building. Rob was an ex-cop who'd become a friend over the years, and he'd always been suspicious of Harper's late-night content shoots. When I told him what I'd discovered, he was ready to help. I knew something was off about her, Rob said when I showed him the Instagram messages. She's been bringing that musclehead around when you're at work. Thought it was weird, but figured it wasn't my business. Well, now it's about to become everyone's business, I replied. That evening, Harper was getting ready for another late collaboration when I decided to accelerate my timeline. She was in the bathroom doing her makeup when her phone buzzed with a text from Chase. Chase_FitLife_29. Ready for tonight's show? The breakup stream is going to be legendary. My blood went cold. Breakup stream? I quickly scrolled up through their messages and found the plan. Harper was going to break up with me live on Instagram, kick me out of her apartment, and document the whole thing for maximum viral potential. She and Chase had been planning this for weeks, timing it for maximum follower engagement. Ethan, Harper called from the bathroom. Can you grab my phone charger from the kitchen? Instead of getting the charger, I opened her Instagram and started reading more messages. The plan was elaborate and cruel. She was going to humiliate me on camera, make me look pathetic and desperate, then change the locks while streaming the whole thing. Chase would be there for support, and her friends Tasha, Maddie, and Lex were all in on it, ready to provide commentary and make me look even worse. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They assumed I was as clueless and helpless as Harper had been portraying me. They had no idea I'd been preparing for this. Harper came out of the bathroom looking like she was ready for a photo shoot. I'm heading out for the night. Don't wait up. Actually, I said, I think I'll wait up tonight. I have a feeling it's going to be an interesting evening. Something in my tone made her pause, but she just shrugged and left. I immediately called Rob. It's happening tonight, I told him. She's planning to break up with me on Instagram Live and try to kick me out. Can you be ready with the lease paperwork? Already got it printed out, Rob replied. This is going to be good. At 9 p.m., Harper's secret Instagram went live again. But this time it wasn't from our bedroom. She was in the hallway outside our apartment with Chase, Tasha, Maddie, and Lex. All of them were grinning like they were about to watch the greatest show on earth. Okay, beautiful people, Harper said to the camera. Tonight is the night I finally free myself from my loser husband. We're about to go inside and I'm going to end this marriage live on camera. Are you ready for this? The comments were going crazy. Yes, Queen. This is better than reality TV. Poor guy has no idea what's coming. Team Harper forever. I watched from my laptop as Harper used her key to open our door. The group walked in like they owned the place, with Harper narrating the whole thing. So, this is the apartment where I've been wasting the last 3 years of my life, she announced to her audience. But not anymore. Ethan, get out here. We need to talk. I walked out of the bedroom, pretending to be confused. Harper, what's going on? Who are all these people? These are my friends, she said, holding the phone so the camera captured both of us. And this is my apartment. We need to have a conversation. The comments were flowing. He looked so confused, Logato. This is amazing content. Harper is savage. Here we go. Harper launched into a speech that was clearly rehearsed. She talked about how I was holding her back, how I was boring and pathetic, how she deserved better. Chase stood behind her, flexing and nodding along. Her friends provided a Greek chorus of agreement and support. So here's what's going to happen, Harper announced to the camera. Ethan is going to pack his stuff and leave. Tonight. This is my apartment, these are my things, and I'm done pretending to be happy. Actually, I said calmly, there's a problem with that plan. Harper looked annoyed that I was interrupting her moment. What problem? This isn't your apartment, Harper. It's mine. You're not on the lease. You don't pay rent, and legally, you're just a guest here. The confidence on her face flickered for just a second, but then she recovered. That's ridiculous. I've been living here for 5 years. 2 years before we got married, and 3 years since, I corrected. But you never wanted to deal with the paperwork, remember? You were too busy with content creation. Chase stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. Dude, just pack your stuff and go. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The comments were getting confused. Wait, whose apartment is it? Harper said it was hers. This is getting messy. Team Harper no matter what. That's when Harper made her fatal mistake. Still streaming live, she pulled out a folded piece of paper. Actually, I have the lease right here, see? My name is on it. She held the document up to the camera, and I could see it was an obvious fake. My name had been whited out, and hers had been typed over it, but you could still see the original text underneath. Harper, I said slowly, did you just show 12,000 people a forged legal document? The color drained from her face as she realized what she'd done. But it was too late. The evidence was already broadcast live. It's not forged, she protested, but her voice was shaking now. That's when I played my trump card. I pulled out my phone and called Rob. Hey Rob, could you come up to apartment 2847? I need you to clarify some lease information for my wife and her friends. They seem to be confused about who lives here. Within 2 minutes, Rob was at our door with a folder full of official paperwork. Harper was still streaming, and her audience was eating up the drama. Good evening, folks, Rob said, nodding to the camera. I'm Rob Martinez, head of building security. I understand there's some confusion about the lease situation here. He opened his folder and pulled out the official lease agreement. According to our records, this apartment is leased solely to Ethan Glass. Harper Glass is listed as an authorized guest, but she has no legal claim to the residence. The comments exploded. OMG, Harper lied. This is so awkward. Team Ethan now. She faked the lease. This is better than Netflix. Harper's face was bright red. That's impossible. I've been paying rent. Actually, I said, I've been paying rent. You've been paying me what you called your half, but that was just you contributing to household expenses. The lease, the utilities, the insurance, it's all in my name. Chase looked confused, which wasn't unusual for him. So, what does that mean? Rob smiled. It means that if anyone needs to leave this apartment, it's not Mr. Glass. Harper was staring at the camera, watching her follower count and seeing the comments turn against her. Her friends were backing toward the door, clearly not wanting to be part of this disaster anymore. This is ridiculous, Harper said, but her voice was getting higher and more desperate. Ethan, tell them this is all a misunderstanding. I can't do that, Harper, I replied calmly. Because it's not a misunderstanding. You tried to humiliate me on social media. You've been cheating on me with Chase here, and now you've committed document fraud on a live stream. I think it's time for you and your friends to leave. The comments were brutal now. Harper got exposed. This is karma. Ethan is savage. She deserves this. Best plot twist ever. Harper made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Fine, I'll just change the locks anyway. You can't stop me. That's when Rob stepped in again. Actually, ma'am, attempting to change locks on a property you don't own is considered criminal mischief. And since you've been broadcasting this entire conversation, we have evidence of your intent to commit a crime. The reality of the situation finally hit Harper. She was live on Instagram. 12,000 people had watched her try to illegally evict her own husband. She'd shown everyone a forged document, and now building security was threatening to call the police. I need to end this stream, she mumbled, reaching for her phone. Don't stop on my account, I said. Your followers seem to be enjoying the show. And they were. The comments were coming so fast, they were just a blur of laughing emojis and Team Ethan messages. Harper's plan to humiliate me had backfired spectacularly. Chase, proving that he was even dumber than he looked, decided this was the moment to get aggressive. Look, man, Harper deserves better than you. Just let her have the apartment and walk away. Chase, I said, looking directly at him, you're about to learn why it's a bad idea to mess with someone who understands technology and has friends in building security. But that's a lesson for another day. The threat was subtle, but Chase was too stupid to catch it. Harper, however, was starting to understand that she'd seriously underestimated me. Rob cleared his throat. I'm going to have to ask everyone, except Mr. Glass, to leave the premises now. This situation has gone on long enough. Harper's friends had already slipped out during the chaos, abandoning her when things got ugly. Chase looked like he wanted to argue, but Rob's ex-cop presence was intimidating even to a gym rat. This isn't over, Harper said, finally ending her live stream. You're right, I replied. It's just getting started. The next morning I woke up to discover that Harper's disastrous live stream had taken on a life of its own. Someone had screen recorded the entire thing and posted it to TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit. #apartment war was trending, and the internet had decidedly chosen Team Ethan. Harper, meanwhile, had spent the night at Chase's place and was apparently planning her counterattack. I found out when she served me with a restraining order and a lawsuit claiming I had emotionally misused her and stolen her apartment through financial manipulation. The legal papers were delivered by a process server while I was having my morning coffee. Harper's lawyer was apparently some flashy guy named Derek Morrison who specialized in social media defamation cases and had promised Harper he could spin the narrative back in her favor. What Harper didn't know was that I'd spent the entire night after her failed eviction attempt documenting everything. Screenshots of all her Instagram messages with Chase, copies of every lease agreement and rental payment, and most importantly, a complete recording of her Harper Tells All live streams going back 6 months. I called my own lawyer, Jennifer Walsh, who I'd worked with on some tech consulting contracts. Jennifer was sharp, methodical, and had zero patience for social media drama. Ethan, she said after reviewing Harper's lawsuit, this is one of the weakest cases I've ever seen. She's essentially suing you for not letting her illegally evict you from your own apartment. What about the restraining order? I asked. Temporary and based entirely on her claims that you threatened her. But we have video evidence of her trying to commit fraud and Chase getting aggressive with you. I can get this dismissed easily. The court hearing was scheduled for the following Friday, which gave me almost a week to prepare. Harper, apparently confident in her legal strategy, decided to double down on the social media angle. She started a new Instagram account called @Harper Truth Teller and began posting daily videos about her abusive marriage and legal battle for justice. The problem was, the internet had already made up its mind. Her new account was flooded with comments from people who'd seen the apartment stream, and most of them weren't sympathetic. Girl, we all saw you try to forge that lease. Your husband seems way too good for you. Chase looks like he has 2 brain cells and they're fighting. Maybe don't cheat on your husband and then try to steal his apartment. But Harper was determined to control the narrative. She and Chase started appearing on her streams together, painting themselves as star-crossed lovers, fighting against my controlling behavior. It was nauseating to watch, but also incredibly useful for my legal case. Chase, being Chase, couldn't help but incriminate himself further. In one particularly stupid moment, he bragged about how he'd been helping Harper plan her escape from that loser for months. He described their affair in detail, talked about how they'd been using my apartment for their hookups, and even mentioned the fake lease plan. We knew Ethan was too much of a wimp to fight back, Chase said, flexing for the camera. Dude probably doesn't even know how to throw a punch. That comment would come back to haunt him sooner than he expected. The day before our court hearing, Harper made another crucial mistake. She posted a video claiming that I'd been financially abusing her by forcing her to pay rent and not putting her name on the lease. She showed bank statements proving that she'd been paying me money every month, which she claimed was evidence of my control. What she didn't realize was that those same bank statements proved she'd been lying about her income. Harper had been claiming to make almost nothing from her influencer work, but the statements showed regular payments from sponsors, affiliate marketing, and even her secret OnlyFans account that I'd discovered. Jennifer was thrilled when I showed her the evidence. She just handed us proof that she's been hiding income and lying about her financial situation. If she wants to play the sufferer, she shouldn't have documented her own deception. Friday morning arrived, and the courthouse was packed. Word had gotten out about the Instagram divorce case, and reporters were actually there to cover it. Harper showed up with Derek Morrison, Chase, and somehow Tasha and Maddie, who were apparently going to testify as character witnesses. I arrived with Jennifer and Rob, who had volunteered to testify about the apartment situation and Harper's behavior in the building. The hearings started with Derek Morrison making a dramatic speech about Harper being a sufferer of financial and emotional misuse, who was bravely fighting for her rights. He painted me as a controlling husband who had isolated Harper and stolen her home. Then Jennifer stood up and calmly destroyed his entire argument in about 10 minutes. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit A, Mrs. Glass's own Instagram live stream from 6 days ago, in which she admits to having an affair, attempts to present a forged lease document, and tries to illegally evict my client from his own apartment. She played clips from Harper's stream on a laptop connected to the courtroom's display system. The judge watched with growing amazement as Harper incriminated herself in real time. Exhibit B. Bank records showing that Mrs. Glass has been earning substantial unreported income from social media and adult content creation, contradicting her claims of financial dependence. Exhibit C. Screenshots of Mrs. Glass's secret Instagram account, where she has been publicly mocking and humiliating my client for over 6 months while carrying on her affair. Derek Morrison was scrambling, objecting to everything, but the damage was done. Harper's own social media obsession had created a perfect paper trail of her deception and infidelity. When it was Harper's turn to testify, she tried to stick to her sufferer narrative, but Jennifer's cross-examination was surgical. Mrs. Glass, you testified that my client was financially controlling. But isn't it true that you chose not to be added to the lease when you got married? I was busy with my career. Your career posting on social media? It's a legitimate business. A business that you failed to report to the IRS, according to these tax documents? Harper's face was getting redder with each question. In the gallery, I could see people recording with their phones, despite the no recording rule. Mrs. Glass, you claim my client was emotionally abusive. But isn't it true that you've been running a secret social media account specifically to mock and humiliate him? That was just entertainment. Entertainment that involved sharing intimate details of your marriage without his consent? I have freedom of speech, and my client has freedom from maltreatment, Mrs. Glass. The final blow came when Jennifer called Rob to testify. He calmly explained the lease situation, Harper's late-night visitors, and the forged document incident. He also mentioned that building security cameras had recorded Harper and Chase using my apartment multiple times while I was at work. We have footage going back 3 months, Rob testified. Mrs. Glass would bring Mr. Dalton to the apartment during business hours, sometimes for several hours at a time. Harper was crying now, and Chase looked like he wanted to disappear. Derek Morrison was frantically whispering to Harper, probably realizing his case was falling apart. When the judge asked if Chase wanted to testify on Harper's behalf, he actually stood up and said, Your Honor, I think there's been a misunderstanding here. Jennifer smiled. Mr. Dalton, you've been having an affair with Mrs. Glass for several months, correct? Well, yeah, but... And you helped her plan to illegally evict my client from his apartment? She said it was her apartment. Did you help her create the forged lease document? Chase looked at Derek Morrison, who was shaking his head frantically. I don't want to answer that. Your Honor, Jennifer said, I think Mr. Dalton's reluctance to answer speaks for itself. The judge had heard enough. He dismissed Harper's restraining order, threw out her lawsuit, and warned her about the potential criminal charges she could face for document fraud and perjury. Mrs. Glass, the judge said sternly, you've wasted this court's time with frivolous claims while admitting to infidelity, fraud, and maltreatment. If you continue this behavior, you'll find yourself facing serious legal consequences. As we walked out of the courthouse, Harper was surrounded by reporters asking about her fake lease and her secret Instagram account. Chase was trying to push through the crowd, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Derek Morrison approached Jennifer and me outside. "Look, this got out of hand. Maybe we can work something out privately." "The only thing we're working out," Jennifer replied, "is my client's countersuit for maltreatment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress." Harper overheard this and spun around. "Countersuit? You can't sue me. I'm the sufferer here." "Harper," I said calmly, "you broadcast our private life to thousands of strangers, cheated on me in our apartment, tried to steal my home, and committed fraud on live television. You're not the sufferer. You're the defendant." That's when Chase made the stupidest decision of his already stupid life. He stepped toward me, chest puffed out, trying to look intimidating in front of the cameras. "Maybe you should back off, dude. Harper's been through enough." "Chase," I said, looking directly at him, "you're about to learn that there are consequences for sleeping with other men's wives, but those lessons are coming soon." The threat was clear, and Chase was too dumb to back down. "Is that supposed to scare me? You're just some computer nerd." "We'll see," I replied. As Harper and Chase walked away, surrounded by reporters and social media vultures, I felt a sense of satisfaction. The legal battle was won, but the war was just beginning. Harper wanted to play games on social media. She wanted to humiliate me for content? Fine. But now it was my turn to create some content of my own. The courthouse victory was just the beginning. Harper and Chase had humiliated me publicly, destroyed my marriage, and tried to steal my home. Legal vindication felt good, but it wasn't enough. They wanted to play the social media game. I was about to show them how it's really done. The first phase of my revenge was simple. Let Harper destroy herself. Her new Instagram account at Harper Truth Teller was hemorrhaging followers daily as more people discovered the courthouse footage and her original apartment stream. But Harper, being Harper, couldn't help but make things worse. Instead of laying low and letting the drama die down, she doubled down. She started posting daily rants about the corrupt legal system and how I had bought off the judge. She claimed the courthouse recordings were edited and that the media was part of a conspiracy against her. The internet's response was swift and brutal. #Harper Lies started trending, with people posting side-by-side comparisons of her claims versus the actual court footage. Her remaining sponsors dropped her one by one. The lifestyle brands that had once paid her for posts wanted nothing to do with the fake lease lady. But I wasn't content to just watch Harper's self-destruction. I had specific plans for both her and Chase, and I was going to execute them with the same methodical precision I used in my tech work. Chase was first, because he was the easier target. The guy was all muscle and no brains, and his social media presence was a joke. He posted constantly about his fitness journey and alpha mindset, but his engagement was pathetic. Most of his followers were bots, and his actual content was stolen motivational quotes over shirtless gym selfies. I started by doing deep research into Chase's background. It turned out he'd been fired from 2 previous gyms for inappropriate conduct with female clients. He'd also been arrested twice for bar fights and had a suspended driver's license for unpaid tickets. The guy was a walking red flag, but Harper had been too infatuated with his abs to do basic due diligence. My first move was subtle. I created anonymous social media accounts and started posting Chase's public records in the comments of his Instagram posts. His arrest records, his employment history, his financial troubles, all public information, but compiled in a way that painted a clear picture of who he really was. "Hey, at Chase_FitLife_29, how's that court case going? Heard you admitted to fraud on the witness stand. Bro, why did you get fired from 3 different gyms? Something about inappropriate conduct? Imagine being 29 and getting your girlfriend to pay your rent. Chase, being Chase, responded exactly as I'd hoped. Instead of ignoring the comments or addressing them maturely, he started posting angry rant videos defending himself. Each rant just made him look more unhinged and gave people more ammunition to use against him. But I was just getting started with Chase. The real fun began when I discovered that Elite Fitness, the gym where he worked, had a very strict social media policy for their trainers. Employees weren't supposed to post anything that could reflect poorly on the gym's reputation. Chase's recent behavior, the affair, the court case, the angry rant videos, was definitely violating that policy. So I compiled a nice folder of screenshots and videos and sent them anonymously to Elite Fitness's corporate office. The response was immediate. Chase was suspended pending investigation, which sent him into an even bigger social media meltdown. He posted a 20-minute video ranting about cancel culture and jealous haters, while sitting in what was clearly Harper's car because his own had been repossessed. That's when I decided to escalate things. Chase's pride and joy was his social media presence and his reputation as a fitness influencer. He constantly posted about his workout routines, his protein shakes, and his alpha lifestyle. His biggest fear was looking weak or stupid in front of his followers, so I gave him exactly what he was afraid of. I'd been monitoring Chase's routine for weeks, and he was predictable as clockwork. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m., he'd go to Elite Fitness for his own workout, even though he'd been suspended from working there. He'd film himself lifting weights and post the videos with captions about grinding and never giving up. On Thursday evening, I put my plan into action. I'd spent the previous week learning everything I could about the gym's PA system and Wi-Fi network. Elite Fitness had terrible cybersecurity. Their Wi-Fi password was literally Elite Fitness 123. And their sound system was connected to the same network. At 6:15 p.m., right when Chase would be in the middle of his workout and filming, I hacked into the gym's PA system and started playing audio clips from his court testimony and his Instagram rants. She said it was her apartment. Chase's voice echoed through the entire gym, followed by his angry rant about computer nerds and jealous haters. The gym went silent. Everyone stopped their workouts and started looking around for the source of the audio. Chase, who had been filming himself doing bicep curls, went white as a sheet, but I wasn't done. Next, I played audio from Harper's original apartment stream, including the parts where she mocked me and Chase bragged about their affair. The entire gym heard Harper calling me a loser and Chase talking about getting his needs met by a married woman. Chase frantically tried to leave, but the gym was packed and everyone was staring at him. People were already pulling out their phones and recording his humiliation. The audio kept playing, 20 minutes of Chase and Harper incriminating themselves, looking stupid, and revealing their affair in all its pathetic detail. The gym manager finally shut off the PA system, but the damage was done. Chase was standing in the middle of Elite Fitness while dozens of people recorded him, having just heard him admit to infidelity, fraud, and general douchebaggery over the loudspeakers. "Sir," the gym manager said to Chase, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Your membership has been revoked." Chase tried to argue, but his voice cracked with embarrassment. "This is maltreatment. Someone hacked your system." "Someone played recordings of your own voice, sir. Please leave before I call security." The videos of Chase's gym humiliation were online within hours. #ChaseGotExposed started trending, with people posting clips of his mortified face as his own words played over the gym's speakers. His Instagram was flooded with laughing emojis and comments about alpha males and homewreckers. But the best part was Harper's reaction. She posted a furious video defending Chase and claiming that I was cyber-stalking them. She threatened to call the police and sue me for maltreatment. The problem with Harper's threats was that I hadn't actually done anything illegal. Hacking into a gym's Wi-Fi might be a gray area, but playing publicly available audio recordings wasn't a crime. Everything I'd played over the PA system was from Harper's own live streams or court testimony, content she'd voluntarily made public. Harper's angry defense of Chase just reminded everyone about their affair and made her look even more pathetic. The comments on her video were brutal. "Maybe don't cheat on your husband if you don't want people to talk about it. Chase is a grown man. Let him defend himself. You're both getting what you deserve. This is karma at its finest." Phase 1 of my revenge was complete. Chase had been publicly humiliated, lost his job, and become a laughingstock on social media. Harper had further damaged her own reputation by defending him. But I was just getting started. Harper had spent months mocking me on social media, calling me weak and pathetic, claiming I was too much of a computer nerd to fight back. She was about to learn that being a computer nerd in 2024 meant having access to tools and skills that could destroy someone's entire digital life. And Harper's entire identity was built on her digital presence. It was time to show her what real power looked like. Harper's biggest mistake was underestimating what a computer nerd could do with the right motivation and technical skills. She'd spent months broadcasting her contempt for my profession, not realizing that in the digital age, information technology isn't just about fixing Wi-Fi. It's about controlling information itself. After Chase's gym humiliation, Harper made another crucial error. Instead of backing down, she escalated. She started a podcast called Harper's Truth, where she claimed to be exposing the dark side of tech bros and their misuse of power. Each episode was essentially a rant about me, with Chase as her co-host, painting themselves as sufferers of my cyberstalking. The podcast was amateur hour, bad audio quality, rambling conversations, and zero actual content beyond their grievances. But Harper promoted it aggressively on her remaining social media accounts, and it gave me the perfect opportunity for phase 2 of my revenge. See, Harper had always been careless with her digital security. Same password for everything, no two-factor authentication, and a habit of logging into accounts on public Wi-Fi. During our marriage, I'd tried to help her improve her cybersecurity, but she'd brushed me off with comments about paranoid tech guys and their conspiracy theories. That carelessness was about to cost her everything. I started with her email accounts. Harper used the same password, HarperBest123, for her Gmail, her Instagram, her podcast hosting service, and even her online banking. It took me about 10 minutes to confirm this through some basic social engineering and password recovery questions that she'd answered publicly on various social media posts over the years. Once I had access to her email, I had access to her entire digital life. Every account recovery, every business communication, every private conversation with sponsors and collaborators. Harper had been living her life online for years, and now I could see all of it. What I found was even worse than I'd expected. Harper hadn't just been cheating on me with Chase. She'd been running multiple scams on her followers. She'd been promoting products she'd never used, taking money for sponsored posts without delivering content, and even stealing money from a GoFundMe she'd set up for a fake women's empowerment workshop. But the most damaging discovery was her OnlyFans account. Harper had been running an adult content subscription service for over a year, making thousands of dollars per month, while claiming to be financially dependent on me. She'd been using our apartment, my apartment, as the location for her photos and videos, sometimes even using our bedroom and bathroom without my knowledge. The OnlyFans discovery gave me the perfect weapon. Harper had built her public image around being a lifestyle influencer and relationship expert. Her remaining followers thought she was a wholesome woman fighting against an abusive husband. They had no idea she was selling nude photos and explicit videos online. I compiled everything into a comprehensive dossier. Screenshots of her OnlyFans account, evidence of her various scams, proof of her unreported income, and documentation of her lies to sponsors and followers. Then I created a professional-looking website called verylharperglass.com and published everything. The website was clean, factual, and devastating. I didn't editorialize or add commentary. I just presented the evidence with timestamps and sources, Harper's own words, screenshots of her own posts, and documentation of her own behavior. But I didn't stop there. I also included audio clips from her Harper Tells All streams where she'd mocked our marriage, transcripts of her text messages planning the fake eviction, and even some of her more ridiculous podcast quotes about being a sufferer of tech misuse. The website went live on a Tuesday morning, and I promoted it through carefully targeted social media campaigns and anonymous tips to gossip blogs and drama channels. By noon, verylharperglass.com was being shared across Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Harper's remaining followers felt betrayed and angry. The lifestyle brands and sponsors who had been considering working with her again immediately distanced themselves. The gossip blogs picked up the story and ran with it, focusing especially on the OnlyFans revelation and the financial scams. Harper's response was predictably unhinged. She posted a series of frantic Instagram stories claiming that I'd hacked her accounts and that the website was full of lies. She threatened to sue me for defamation and claimed that the evidence was fabricated. The problem with Harper's defense was that everything on the website was real and verifiable. Her OnlyFans account was still active, her scam messages were timestamped and corroborated by sufferers, and her tax evasion was documented by her own bank records. Chase, meanwhile, was dealing with his own problems. After the gym incident, he'd been fired from Elite Fitness and was struggling to find new work. His social media following had collapsed, and he was apparently living in his car because he couldn't afford rent. But I wasn't done with Chase yet. He'd made the mistake of threatening me outside the courthouse, and I'd promised him consequences. It was time to deliver on that promise. Chase's weakness was his vanity. Despite being unemployed and essentially homeless, he still maintained his social media presence and tried to project an image of success. He'd post photos of himself at expensive restaurants that Harper was paying for, and in nice cars that he'd borrowed or rented. I decided to shatter that illusion completely. Using the same techniques I'd used on Harper, I gained access to Chase's social media accounts and email. What I found was a goldmine of stupidity and desperation. Chase had been lying about everything: his income, his living situation, his employment, even his age. He was actually 32, not 29, and had been using old photos for his profile pictures. More importantly, I discovered that Chase had been running his own scams. He'd been selling personalized workout plans that were just generic routines he'd stolen from other trainers. He'd been promoting supplements that he'd never tried and didn't even understand. And he'd been catfishing lonely women on dating apps, getting them to send him money for emergencies. I added Chase's information to therylharperglass.com, creating a comprehensive expose of both of them. The website became a one-stop shop for everyone who wanted to understand the full scope of Harper and Chase's deception and fraud. But my masterpiece was still to come. Harper and Chase, desperate to salvage their reputations, decided to do a live truth-telling session on Instagram. They were going to expose my lies and reveal the real story behind our divorce and their relationship. They promoted the live stream heavily, claiming they had evidence that would vindicate them and prove that I was the real villain. Harper even claimed she had proof that I'd been abusive and controlling throughout our marriage. I let them promote the stream for a full week, building anticipation and getting people excited for their big revelations. What they didn't know was that I'd been monitoring all their communications and knew exactly what they were planning. The live stream was scheduled for Friday night at 8 p.m. Harper and Chase set up in what appeared to be a nice apartment, actually a short-term rental that Harper had borrowed money to afford for the night. They had props, printed documents, and a whole presentation planned. At 8 p.m. sharp, they went live with about 3,000 viewers, a fraction of Harper's original audience, but still enough to make an impact. They started with their usual sufferer narrative, talking about how I'd destroyed their lives with lies and maltreatment. Then Harper pulled out her evidence, printed screenshots that she claimed proved I'd been abusive and controlling. She held them up to the camera triumphantly, expecting vindication. That's when I struck. Using the access I'd gained to Harper's accounts, I started posting on her Instagram story while she was live streaming. But I wasn't posting random content. I was posting real-time screenshots of her and Chase's private messages from that very day. Messages where they admitted the evidence was fabricated. Messages where they discussed how to lie convincingly on camera. Messages where Chase complained about having to pretend to love this crazy witch for money. Messages where Harper called her remaining followers idiots who would believe anything. The live stream viewers started commenting about the Instagram stories appearing in real time. Harper, confused by the comments, checked her phone and saw her own private messages being posted to her public story. Her face went white. She looked at Chase, who was equally confused and terrified. They were being exposed in real time, on their own platform, using their own accounts. "How is this happening?" Harper whispered, forgetting she was still live. That's when I posted the final message to her story. "Hi, Harper. This is Ethan. Smile for the camera." The live stream exploded. Viewers were screenshotting everything, sharing the drama across platforms, and commenting faster than Harper could read. She tried to end the stream, but her hands were shaking too badly to work her phone properly. Chase, proving once again that he was an idiot, tried to grab Harper's phone to end the stream. They struggled over it on camera, knocking over their props and destroying their carefully staged set. The phone fell to the floor but kept streaming, capturing audio of them panicking and blaming each other for the disaster. When Harper finally managed to end the stream, the damage was complete. Thousands of people had watched them get exposed in real time using their own social media accounts. The screenshots of their private messages were already viral, showing everyone exactly who they really were behind their public personas. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Harper's remaining social media accounts were suspended for terms of service violations. Chase's accounts were deleted entirely. The gossip blogs and drama channels had enough content for weeks. But most importantly, their credibility was completely destroyed. No one would ever believe anything they said again. They'd been caught lying, cheating, scamming, and manipulating in the most public way possible. Harper tried to come back with new accounts, but they were immediately identified and brigaded by people who remembered the scandal. Chase disappeared from social media entirely and apparently left town, unable to handle the constant recognition and ridicule. My revenge was complete, but I had one final surprise planned. Harper had spent our entire marriage claiming that I was just a computer nerd who fixed Wi-Fi problems and couldn't provide her with the lifestyle she deserved. It was time to show her exactly what kind of lifestyle a successful tech consultant could actually afford. 3 months after Harper's spectacular live stream meltdown, I was settling into my new life when I got a call from Rob at building security. Harper had been spotted in the lobby, apparently trying to get back into the building. "She's claiming she left some personal items in the apartment," Rob told me. "Says she has a right to retrieve her belongings." I looked around my apartment, our former apartment, which I'd completely renovated since Harper's departure. New furniture, new decor, new everything. There was nothing left that belonged to her, and she knew it. "Tell her she can make an appointment through my lawyer if she wants to discuss personal property," I said. "But she's not getting up here." That's when Rob delivered the interesting news. "Actually, Ethan, there's something else. She's not alone. Chase is with her, and they've got some guy with a camera. Looks like they're trying to film something." Of course they were. Harper couldn't help herself. Even in complete defeat, she was still trying to create content. I realized this was the perfect opportunity to deliver my final surprise. "Rob, let them up," I said. "But give me 10 minutes first." I'd been planning this moment for weeks, ever since I'd decided to move out of the Meridian Tower apartment. See, Harper had always mocked my small apartment and my boring lifestyle. She'd complained constantly about how we couldn't afford the things she wanted, how I was holding her back from the luxury life she deserved. What Harper never knew was that the Meridian Tower apartment wasn't my only property. It wasn't even my primary residence anymore. During our marriage, I'd been quietly building my tech consulting business into something much bigger. While Harper was focused on her Instagram followers and her affair with Chase, I'd been landing major corporate contracts, developing proprietary software, and making investments that she never bothered to ask about. The modest lifestyle I'd maintained during our marriage wasn't because I couldn't afford better. It was because I was reinvesting everything into building long-term wealth. Harper saw my careful budgeting and assumed I was poor. She never looked at the bigger picture. After our divorce was finalized, I'd moved into my real home, a penthouse in the most exclusive building downtown with a view of the entire city and amenities that made the Meridian Tower look like a budget motel. But I'd kept the Meridian apartment as well, partly for sentimental reasons, and partly because I'd suspected Harper would eventually try to come back. I wanted to be ready for her when she did. 10 minutes later, Rob called back. "They're on their way up. The camera guy looks professional. I think they're trying to make some kind of documentary." Perfect. I'd been hoping Harper would try one last desperate attempt to salvage her reputation. A documentary about our marriage would be exactly the kind of grandiose, delusional project she'd think could rehabilitate her image. I heard the elevator ding and voices in the hallway. Harper was talking loudly, probably for the camera, about how she was finally going to show people the truth about our relationship. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Harper, Chase, and a nervous-looking guy with a professional camera setup. Harper was dressed up like she was going to a red carpet event, clearly having prepared for this moment. "Hello, Harper," I said calmly. "Chase. And you are?" The camera guy introduced himself as Marcus, some freelance documentary filmmaker that Harper had hired to create what she was calling the real story, a woman's fight for truth. "Ethan," Harper said, her voice artificially sweet for the camera, "I'm just here to collect my personal belongings and maybe have a civilized conversation about what really happened between us." I stepped aside and let them into the apartment. Harper looked around with obvious confusion. Nothing looked the same as when she'd lived here. The furniture, the decor, even the layout had been completely changed. "Where are my things?" she asked, dropping the sweet act. "What things?" I replied. "You took everything that belonged to you when you moved out. These are my belongings." Harper gestured to the camera, clearly trying to create a scene. "See? This is exactly the kind of controlling behavior I was talking about. He's hidden my possessions and redecorated everything to erase my presence." Chase nodded along, playing his role as the supportive boyfriend. "It's psychological misuse, man. You're trying to gaslight her into thinking she never lived here." I smiled. This was going exactly as I'd hoped. "Harper, you're absolutely right that I've erased your presence from this apartment. But that's because this apartment doesn't matter anymore." Harper looked confused. What do you mean it doesn't matter? I mean, I don't live here anymore. This is just my old place that I keep for storage and occasional use. My actual home is somewhere else entirely. The confusion on Harper's face was priceless. Your actual home? Ethan, what are you talking about? That's when I delivered the final blow to Harper's entire worldview. Harper, do you remember how you always complained that I was just a computer nerd who fixed Wi-Fi problems? How you said I was holding you back from the lifestyle you deserved? She nodded warily, sensing a trap but not understanding what it was. Well, you were wrong about what I do for a living. I don't fix Wi-Fi problems, Harper. I design cybersecurity systems for Fortune 500 companies. I've got contracts with 3 major banks, 2 tech giants, and a defense contractor. Last year, my company cleared 7 figures in revenue. Harper's mouth fell open. Chase looked like he was trying to do math in his head and failing. But you always said we couldn't afford, Harper stammered. We couldn't afford your lifestyle because I was reinvesting everything into building the business. Every dollar you wanted to spend on designer bags and influencer trips was money I was putting into equipment, software development, and business expansion. I pulled out my phone and showed them photos of my real home. The penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The home office with multiple high-end computer setups. The garage with my actual car, not the modest sedan Harper knew about, but the BMW I'd bought myself after she moved out. This is where I live now, Harper. This is the lifestyle you could have had if you'd been patient and supportive instead of cheating on me with an unemployed gym rat. Harper was staring at the photos with undisguised shock and rage. You lied to me. You pretended to be poor. I never lied about anything. I told you exactly what I did for work, showed you my tax returns, and explained my business plans. You just weren't interested in listening. You were too busy mocking my career and planning your affair. Chase, finally understanding what was happening, tried to get aggressive. So what, man? You think money makes you better than us? No, Chase. I think loyalty, honesty, and hard work make me better than you. The money is just a nice bonus. Harper was spiraling, realizing that she'd thrown away a marriage to a successful businessman for a broke loser who was now living in his car. This isn't fair. You should have told me. Harper, I tried to tell you for 3 years. You didn't want to hear about my work, my plans, or my goals. You wanted to focus on your Instagram followers and your content creation career. Well, how's that working out for you? The camera was capturing everything. Harper's meltdown, Chase's impotent rage, and my calm demolition of their entire narrative. Marcus, the filmmaker, looked like he was getting much better footage than he'd expected. You know what the really funny part is? I continued. You spent months telling 12,000 strangers that I was a loser who couldn't provide for you. But those same strangers are now watching you beg to get back into my old apartment while I'm living in a penthouse that costs more per month than you made in your best year as an influencer. Harper tried one last desperate attack. None of this matters. You're still the same boring, controlling man I married. You're right, Harper. I am exactly the same man you married. The same man who was building a successful business while you were cheating on him. The same man who was planning for our future while you were planning his humiliation. The same man who had the patience to let you destroy yourself instead of stooping to your level. I walked to the door and opened it. Now, I think it's time for you to leave. All of you. You've got your footage, Harper. I'm sure it'll make a fascinating documentary about the consequences of infidelity and poor judgment. Harper looked like she wanted to argue more, but she was clearly overwhelmed by the revelation. Chase was sulking, probably realizing that he'd helped Harper throw away a marriage to a millionaire. Marcus was already packing up his camera, probably planning how to edit this footage into something marketable. As they filed out of the apartment, Harper turned back one last time. This isn't over, Ethan. Yes, it is, I replied. It's been over since the moment you decided to cheat on me and humiliate me for content. Everything that's happened since then has just been you facing the consequences of that decision. After they left, I stood in the empty apartment and felt a sense of complete satisfaction. Harper had wanted to create one final piece of content to salvage her reputation, and instead, she'd created the perfect ending to her own story. The documentary footage would show the world exactly what kind of person she really was. Someone who threw away a good marriage and a successful husband for a temporary thrill and some social media attention. Someone who was so focused on appearances and instant gratification that she couldn't see the bigger picture. I locked up the apartment and headed back to my real home, my actual life, and my bright future. Harper could keep trying to create content about our relationship, but she'd never be more than a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you choose social media drama over real-life success. A week later, Marcus contacted me to let me know that Harper had refused to pay him for the documentary footage. Apparently, once she saw the rough cut, she realized it made her look even worse than her previous disasters. She demanded he destroy the footage and threatened to sue him if he released it. Marcus, being a smart businessman, had offered to sell me the footage instead. I bought it, not because I needed it, but because I wanted to make sure Harper could never use it to hurt anyone else. The last I heard, Harper was working at a retail job in another city, having burned all her bridges in the influencer world. Chase had moved back in with his parents and was apparently trying to become a truck driver. As for me, my business continued to grow. I started dating a brilliant software engineer who appreciated both my work and my character, and I never had to worry about someone live streaming my private life for content. Harper had been right about one thing. I was exactly the same boring, methodical, careful person she'd married. The difference was that those qualities, which she'd seen as weaknesses, had actually been my greatest strengths. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic or flashy. Sometimes it's just living well and letting your enemies destroy themselves. But in Harper's case, I'd been happy to help the process along,